Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us here on United MUFON. We have an awesome show planned for you today with our special guest, Florida MUFON's Chief Investigator, David Toon. He'll share his insight here with us on Technosignatures, and I promise you, you will not be disappointed at all with what he has to share with us. You know, MUFON is the greatest UFO reporting agency in the world, and having folks on board like David Toon is one of the reasons why. We have lots of incoming information changing the global picture of what we have come to believe. Information is coming to us at such a fast pace, and today's guest will make you truly wonder and acknowledge how big this UFO story can actually get. For a very long time, we have wondered, do we have the whole story? All of us at MUFON are we asking the right questions? Do we understand what is truly happening with individual extraterrestrial interactions? This is the question, after all. We know we are not alone, and we've known this for many years now. So then, who actually is watching us, and who is showing up day after day, year after year, to so many? Today, we have bigger questions, and we want them answered. The next phase is here. The shift has happened, and we have messages that are making sense for the first time in history. The world is waking up to the truth about our off-world visitors. Everything from cereal boxes to candies and movies are all involving UFOs. That's not a coincidence. So many different voices today, many with conflicting information, all claiming they have inside knowledge of what is actually happening in our solar systems and related extraterrestrial activities. How can you sort out what's real from what's disinformation or actually fiction? If something is real, then it can be substantiated with supportive evidence. Otherwise, anybody can say just about anything. Truth is important. That is why we are here at MUFON. This is why we research patterns that indicate what is truth from that which is deceptive or false. We share with you an analysis of a number of confirming patterns from the information provided by MUFON stats to decide these things for yourself. If what is being disclosed is coming from direct knowledge or just highly unusual activity. You know, another vein here of thought recently was somebody had said that MUFON was a government agency, and I'm here to tell you this is not so. We cannot control the chatter that happens in ufology, but I assure you, all of you, we are not a government agency. We gladly work alongside our government, but however, we are not a government corporation. Well, anyway, enough about that. I just wanted to say something about it. There's so much to talk about today, and we have a lot to cover since we have David here with us, and I don't want to take too much time away from that. So let's take a quick look at what we do here at MUFON. So what is MUFON? Well, MUFON is the oldest and largest UFO investigative organization in the world with a huge member base, and we add to it daily. We're represented in all 50 states and 40 countries with thousands of trained volunteers, certified field investigators, and over 50 PhD consultants in most disciplines. MUFON does conduct the scientific information for all of us here. And some fun facts: we were established in 1969, and for the past 53 years, MUFON has compiled a database of over 195,000 UFO reports. Our CMS, or case management system, was developed in 2006. As MUFON has evolved, we now monitor abductions as well as entity cases. So how exactly do we investigate here? People ask us that all the time. Well, we use computer sciences and biology. astronomy, physics, chemistry, geology, engineering, and many statistics. That is the scientific method. And we have a mission statement. These are the words that inspire each and every one of us every day. We investigate UFO sighting, abductions, and entity cases. We promote research of UFOs with an eye always towards science. And we educate the public on the UFO phenomenon. We do have a board of directors. Our executive director is David McDonald. Myself, director of memberships, Barbara Schuessler-Sobani, our MUFON journal editor, Debbie Ziegelmeyer is the Missouri state director, Rob Swiatek, who is a local physicist, Richard Beckwith, Wyoming state director and MUFON attorney, and Sandy Clevin. She's our psychologist. So, of all of those UFO reports that we receive, approximately 15% of those are actually UFOs. The others are misidentifications, optical illusions, stars, planets, hoaxes, and hallucinations. So, what about all those remaining 15%? Well, that's actually what brought me to MUFON, and that's the reason for MUFON's existence. You're not alone. We want to hear your story, and no experience is too bizarre. I'm so glad that I did come to MUFON for my answers. If you've got a question about something that has happened to you, please log on www.mufon.com and report your experience. I assure you, someone will get in touch with you within a week. We have an experiencers resource team known as the ERT to all of us here at MUFON, and they are dedicated to helping experiencers of alien contact. Currently, our director is Dr. George Medich, and you can report anything that has happened to you confidentially, and just go to mufon.com/experiencer-questionnaire.hotmail and fill out the information, and they will get back to you in just a few days. Some MUFON business here that I'd like to take care of before we get going today. We are live every fourth Saturday of the month unless I've made a change like this month, and because next month we'll be on vacation. So we started a week earlier, and we're on Facebook at United MUFON. Join us. Also, MUFONmeetings.com. If you'd like to leave any information for me, please do so. Any questions that you might have, or any upcoming meetings, any type of questions you'd like me to ask, or anybody you would like me to interview, please let me know. Okay, and we've got the 2023 MUFON Symposium coming up in Cincinnati. Whew, a mouthful. August 24th through the 27th. So please save that date. I hope you can make it. I look forward to seeing you there. I know I'll be there. It's really close. Our MUFON Journal has a call for submissions, so any field investigators, directors, international directors, or members, FIs, anybody in MUFON, what we're looking for is we welcome article submissions about case investigations, case analyses, internal cases, and historical research on sightings or related phenomenon. Just contact Barbara Sobani at journaleditor@mufon.com for considerations. And we thank you. We look forward to hearing from you. Also, we have the official MUFON podcast. Please turn in. It's just go to MUFON.com. It's right there. Don't forget to watch it. Richard Beckwith has an updated format and interesting subject matter with interviews and latest information in ufology. So he's each month. And like I said, just go to MUFON.com, join up, and listen to the podcast. And if you haven't joined yet, please do. I would invite you to join today. Our members can receive either an electronic or hard copy monthly journal. Our journals include articles by leading ufologists, of course, symposium information, UFO sighting reports, abduction cases, one-on-one interviews, mutilation, and crop circles, just to name a few, and it's all for $59.88 for an entire year. Really well worth it. And if you can, if you update and include MUFON TV for $119.88 for the whole year, or basically $9.99 a month, you can actually live stream those MUFON symposiums, which saves you thousands of dollars. So that's your best bet. And you'll have so many different videos and symposiums that you can look back on, all types of information. So please join us with MUFON TV. We'd love to have you aboard. If you'd like to become a field investigator, please just go to MUFON.com and just click on Join MUFON and become a member. Join the team. We look forward to having you join us. Now available at the MUFON store, our favorite MUFON I Know shirts. I love those shirts. Those are the best. And now you can order those online. So please do so. Visit our online store. I'm sure you'll find something special other than my I Know tees. We have hats, we have bags, coffee mugs, pens, hats, and portfolios, just to name a few items, and they're all emblazoned with the MUFON logo. So just go to MUFON.com and order at our MUFON store. Next time on United MUFON, I've got Marketa Klimova coming on, our symposium organizer. And oh my gosh, I so look forward to having her on. She is just such a wonderful soul, does so much for MUFON, works constantly. We're so glad to have her aboard. That'll be November the 26th, 2 p.m. Central Time, 3 p.m. Eastern. So, today's presentation. This is so exciting. I just can't wait to get going here with David. A little bit about him first. David has worked as a project manager conducting research for the Federal Aviation Administration at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, as a next-gen staff member at the Florida Test Bed Facility. David manages FAA projects aimed to improve data flow and communications within the national airspace systems for his day job. At night, he moonlights with MUFON as the Florida Chief Investigator, assisting and training certified field investigators in the art of UFO investigations. David was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona in 1961 and left there in 1984 to join the Army as an electronic warfare intercept systems tactical repairer. That's a 33S within the military intelligence branch. After spending a little more than 5 years in the Army and as a new staff sergeant, David applied for the officer candidate school and the aviation course and was accepted into both schools. David retired in 2006 as an aviation major, but went immediately into overseas contracting in Iraq and Afghanistan for another 7 years. David earned a BS degree in liberal studies while in the service. Built in 2013, decided to acquire a second BS degree in unmanned aircraft systems, drones, at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and that was in 2015 in Daytona Beach, Florida campus. By 2019, David had earned 2 Masters of Science degrees, and one in human factors and the other in aeronautical and space. He did join MUFON, by the way, in 2015. David's favorite hobby and passion is UFO hunting in the NASA Solar Satellite Archives online, and to date has collected more than 60,000 unidentified objects found within these images. His website is called solarsuspicions.com. He currently displays a small portion of 1,200 images from his personal collection showing the very technosignatures NASA is searching for. So please join me in welcoming David Toon. Oops. Hi, David.
Hi, Terry. Thank you for the introduction. I appreciate that.
Welcome.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I think so. Is everything okay? In the I hit my whatever this is called here.
Your audio
Oh, that'd be
system,
my microphone. Yeah. Yeah. Hello.
It's good to see you again. For those who don't know, Terry was the first kind face I saw when I joined MUFON, walked into a MUFON meeting. And she was very open and intelligent, and I loved the presentation. And I was mesmerized and became a member immediately thereafter. So first of all, thank you, Terry, for bringing me in back in 2015. But it's been a journey since then.
Well, I'll tell you, it has been a wonderful journey for us having you, that's for sure. I have, the first time you showed me your NASA technosignatures, it confirmed so much of what I myself had personally experienced, and it was really a validation for me. And I was just elated. I thought all this time I've been saying, that these ships are much bigger than these little 47-foot ships, And sure enough, you come along and show me something that's bigger than the size of the state of Texas, and I thought, there you go. I've seen that. So why doesn't everybody see that? I'm not really sure. But boy, I'm excited to have you share what you're going to share with us today.
It's going to be nothing but fun, but I suggest everybody just buckle up. And if you have questions, please write them down as I go through the presentation. I'll answer as many as I can at the end as time will allow. But I may be able to answer some of your questions as I go through this. So forgive me if I just throw them along, but there's a lot of information to get through.
Yes, there sure is. And I was really biting my nails when I heard that that Hurricane Ian was coming towards Florida, because I thought, no, I want to have David on the show. Please don't let anything happen to him.
No, we were spared. Our backyard fence got to see a tree come through it, but everything else is fine. And,
I'm so grateful.
Did really well.
Yeah, the rest of the state didn't do quite as good, but thank God.
No,
thank God you're okay.
It was a bad one. But still prayers for those folks that are rebuilding.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're reminded on Facebook every day to say a prayer for those people, because, boy, some areas were leveled. It really was something.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to ask any more questions or say anything. I just want to get right going.
Sounds good. I don't know if my screen is up yet, but if you guys can see the screen, it should be a cartoon.
Okay. Well, go ahead. Take her away.
All right. Perfect. Now, I chose this cartoon not because it has my last name as the author. Okay, maybe I did. I don't know. But it was funny as I found this on the internet about a year ago, and I kept it in my presentations ever since. But let me dive into some of what we're about to walk into. I should have taken this one out, but it's true too. All right, a little bit more about me for those who are more visual than audio. There's a few of the bullets that Terry was kind enough to go through on my introduction on my bio, just to give you a little bit more visibility on my background. I do have 1,200 hours of flight time in both Hueys and Scouts, and then I transitioned into Apaches as an Apache commander. So altogether, about 1,200 hours, mostly staff work, which is fine. I enjoyed what I did in the military when I got in. When I got out, I enjoyed it so much I became a contractor and went in to support the effort over in Iraq and Afghanistan at the time. But probably my biggest hobby, obviously, is chasing UFOs. And I found a way to do that back in 2015, right before I met Terry. And it was a long story where I was looking at some radar loops for weather, and found that there was some really strange activity on the state of Florida So I went to spaceweather.com and started looking to see if there was any CMEs affecting our planet because of the anomalies I was seeing in weather. And it turned out there's anomalies in the images within the NASA archives. So I immediately took a bunch of my photos that I pulled off the internet and went to the astrophysicist in the science building and talked to them for a bit. And they were kind enough to pat me on the head and explain most of them were cosmic rays or, program compressions and such. But there was 2 or 3 that they couldn't answer and they couldn't identify. And that started my journey right there. I realized there was more in the vast universe, and especially in our own solar system, than we realized. So I'm not going to read all this to you because Terry was kind enough to go through it. So we'll just continue on. What I'm going to do is a presentation on technosignatures. This is a NASA term, and what I'll do is give you the actual reference for NASA. But let me start by saying this type of stuff is real. There's articles and news clips that are out there, and this is one of the news clips that hit just about a year and a half ago. Hopefully you guys can hear this.
We just had something go right over the top of us that, I hate to say this, looked like a long cylindrical object.
That was the pilot of American Airlines Flight 2292 after witnessing a mysterious object pass right by his aircraft.
It almost looked like a cruise missile type of thing moving really fast.
The close encounter happened early Sunday afternoon while the American Airlines flight was passing over New Mexico en route to Arizona.
Have any targets up here? We just had something go right over the top of us.
The radio call was noticed by an airline radio enthusiast who says the call caught his attention because the pilot sounded very excited. On Tuesday, American Airlines validated the call but asked for questions to go to the FBI.
All right. Could you all hear that okay?
It was great.
All right. That was an actual news report that came out. And the fun part about this is I know a lot of commercial pilots. I have a commercial helicopter license myself. So when a pilot gets excited in the cockpit, he's talking to air traffic control and is requesting assistance. It's real. There's something that caught his eye that shouldn't be up there because these guys have thousands of hours of airtime. With that, I found on military.com this really interesting clip that I don't think many people know it's out there. For those who don't know what TR-3Bs are, they're anti-gravity ships that we own, we build and own. Not too many people, let's put it this way, it's not advertised. But you'll see within the archives of MUFON cases, a lot of shapes that are triangular. So let me show you what they actually look like, since not a whole lot of videos or pictures are out there, and I happen to find this one on military.com. So let me get this started. Hopefully you can see this okay.
It's not moving.
Can you see the video at all?
No.
Okay. Let me back up then and see if we can pull the picture. Do you see the picture here?
I see the picture anti-gravity spacecraft.
Okay. Can you see it moving now off the website?
No.
Okay. We'll go right past that. These are TR-3Bs. I was trying to show everybody that they actually fly. And this was a training mission. You could tell by the way they were flying both in tandem and then they split apart. If you get a chance, you can always go to the archives on January 29th, 2021, see if you can pull them back up. But it's a fascinating video, and it proves we have these systems and we're using them. So it's legitimate, and it also helps folks to realize they're not just seeing things. Again, like Terry said, it's a validation point that A, we have this kind of technology. B, I really don't know who's driving it. And C, it could be off-world. But anything that's got a straight edge, in my theory of looking at this kind of stuff, is probably one of ours. If it looks like a tic tac or it's rounded, it's probably one of theirs. That's just a simplified Looney Tune theory of theology that I go by. If we continue on, you'll see that the astrobiology field is taken seriously by NASA. They put out a roadmap or a strategy about every 2-3 years. And what it does is it guides the scientists all the way around the world to look for things that they have gaps of knowledge in. And back in 2015, on page 150, if you open up this manual, you'll see right in the middle, they come up with this term, technosignatures, and give it a definition. So if I may, I'll read it just real quick, starting at the top sentence to the far right. While traditional search for extraterrestrial intelligence, SETI, is not a part of astrobiology, let me stop right there. It is a part of astrobiology. I don't know why they put it this way. And is currently well funded by private sources. It's reasonable for astrobiology to maintain strong ties with the SETI community. There are also other ways not included in contemporary SETI that astrobiology can contribute for the search of technological life. Chief amongst these is the search for technosignatures. As we explore the exoplanets and search for biosignatures, we'll also be aware of the possibility that technological life could also perturb atmospheric composition or other planetary qualities in observable ways. So they say, rather than argue against it, let's just go ahead and say the likelihood of finding such a signature is out there. And we should include it for all of our astrobiology efforts. That said, technosignatures has a definition where these guys are looking for life on exoplanets. And exoplanets are just simply planets and other star systems that are in the same Goldilocks zone as the Earth is. So this is to validate and show that NASA is on the search for technosignatures. They even had a symposium on it themselves. They had a workshop that they did back in 2018 in Texas. I missed it because I could have given the answers. But next time if they do it again, I'll show them where all the technosignatures are. Hopefully some of you remember the 2019 article that came out about Avi Loeb from Harvard, where he's the top astrophysicist there and scientist, and he made some crazy comments about the comet Uma that came through, and he was ridiculed pretty hard for this article because he was one of the few top scientists that came out and said, yeah, I know all about astrophysics. This thing didn't act like an inorganic asteroid. So it had enough intelligent properties that even Avi Loeb came out and said, yeah, I think it's something other than an inorganic rock. Really stunned the industry at the time. But even NASA, they came out and made the same type of claim that, we'll be able to prove life in the universe here in 10 to 20 years. And Ellen Stefan actually came to Embry-Riddle and did a presentation. One of the claims that she made during a talk was that humanity will encounter extraterrestrials within a decade. That's pretty bold. She went on to say, I believe we're going to have strong indications of life beyond Earth in the next decade and definitive evidence in the next 10 to 20 years. Well, that statement was made in 2015. It's now 2022. So we're getting close to that point where NASA is ready to do the big reveal. And this is by their own words. So we're in some exciting times. On that note, I had to just put in this slide. I'm not sure why they would make that prediction and put their reputations on the line unless they're not putting their reputations on the line. Hope you read between the lines on that one. Mm-hmm. I think they know what's out there. They're just going to spoon feed us enough so that there's not a stampede once they reveal. Mm-hmm. Recent history of UFOs. Everybody knows about the Roswell Air Force Base, where they had brought into it off one of the ranches in Roswell, the famous crash, and a couple of the aliens. And of course, the next day, they recounted all of it and said it was a weather balloon. And this is just a little cartoon validating that. I'm sure the aliens were disappointed that we did that to ourselves. But there's also stuff like movies that we grew up with. There's a lot of folks in the industry that are thought leaders, and some are also those who mock it. We have to put up with a lot in the UFO world. And even MUFON, we from time to time get some cases that are hoaxes, folks that just kind of mock the idea of it. But the counter to all that is that we do get a lot of cases that are the real McCoy and really hard to figure out, and it's a joy to come across those. When we're searching for extraterrestrial life, you have to go back to 1961 and actually incorporate Drake's equation. For those who are not familiar with Drake, Dr. Frank Drake in 1961 came up with a really great idea of how to determine the number of intelligent societies out there. He was a radio astronomer back in the day, and he set up this one string of variables that is kind of interesting. I put it out here just in plain text, but luckily SETI did the same thing, and they organized it better and threw some color at it. So let me go through this for you as a basis, a background. So if you start with the number of civilizations you're really looking for within a galaxy, that will equal the average rate of star formation times the fraction of those stars that have planets, that times the number of those planets that develop an ecosystem, times the fraction of those planets that succeed in developing life, and then times the fraction of the life that becomes intelligent. And then when you get to a certain level of intelligence, you start actually developing communication systems for off-planet. And the last variable on this one is kind of interesting. It talks about the average length of time such a civilization survives itself, which I kind of get now, given the current political issues and war footing that we're on. However, when I was going through my studies and I came across Drake's equation, I realized that there was something missing. Drake missed a very critical variable in his own equation. Can anybody figure that out? Oh, there it is. There's the answer. I pushed the button too soon. Mobile structures. If you can communicate off planet with radio waves, maybe you can throw some spaceships up there. We do it all the time now. Didn't do it 100 years ago, but now we're all over the place in our own solar system. So you have to put that as a factor for determining and finding technosignatures. Because we threw stuff back in the 70s like Skylab. We had the space shuttle system going. This is an actual picture from just a regular telescope. Anybody know what that is? Yep, you're right. It's the ISS space station. So that's great. Also, the SDO satellite system that's up there all the time right now picked out this guy near the sun. Anybody know what that is? Me neither. We call that a technosignature. And so I'm going to do the presentation today to show you how to find these and what the methodology I use. So the four basic principles I use is A, identification or pattern recognition. Two is be the verification. I shouldn't say A, but two would be verification. Three is duplication. And four is accessibility. Terry alluded to the fact that there are so many cases we have in MUFON that are onesies, where somebody saw something and couldn't get the phone out in time, or even if they did, it's really hard to verify, usually poor image, poor resolution. And it's always nice to have more than one person to validate. We always look for as many people as we can to help validate these cases. The other thing is, can you duplicate it? Sometimes you'll hear stories over nuclear sites, Air Force bases and things like that, where they'll have not just one sighting one night, it may be a couple, it may be some duplication going on in the same environment, same area. That's always helpful if you can get it duplicated. Then, of course, accessibility. Does everybody have access to the Air Force base or the atomic plant? No, we all don't. So it gets down to mostly storytelling or narratives that we get in some digital evidence. And obviously, the more digital evidence, the better. But there's some good evidence out there coming in. So pattern cognition is the same thing as identification. We do it all the time. That's how you navigate even your own house. You know what a wall looks like. You know where the refrigerator's at. There's certain things that you see and recognize. And as we grow up from babies, this is an ongoing process. And that's what the human brain does. That's what we all get to do. Of course, satellites now give us the other three things. They can verify because there's more than one sensor. I consider each sensor a person because there may be a grouping of 10 to 11 sensors on a solar satellite. And if they're all picking up something, that's a pretty good indicator that that thing exists. Duplication, similar object and characteristics. Sometimes you'll see an object over and over again that's slightly different, but still the same shape. It may be because of a different angle you're seeing it. But the satellites can verify that as well. They actually have enough data, or I've pulled enough data to see how duplication actually is figured out with the solar satellite imagery. And accessibility. Fun part about my work is I work off the internet. All the places I go are NASA solar satellite websites. You can go there too. And matter of fact, I challenge anybody every time I show them a really crazy solar satellite picture with a really crazy object in it. I say, go to the date time group, pull it up, and you'll see it for yourself. So all of us can do the same thing. So at this point, what are we really looking at? Well, for those who are not familiar with solar satellite imagery, there's a bank of sensors that look at the sun, but they actually pull in different frequencies. Some are looking at helium isotopes, some are looking at iron isotopes. And the raw data is always a shades of gray type of image. What happens is post-production is the scientist will give it a color. That way you know what frequency or angstrom you're looking at. Like the orange one to the top left is a 304 angstrom sensor. And likewise, you can go all the way around. For the different colors means there's different frequencies. Now those four pictures were taken at the same time, but you'll see nuanced differences because they're looking at different isotopes giving off that energy. So it gives you some better detail for the things they're looking for on the surface as they do their research on the sun itself. Why so many sensors? Well, of the three solar satellites I use in my hobby, SDO, stereo, and SOHO, the different sensors they have are checked off in an X. And you can see right below it the angstrom or sensor frequency that is being sought, and the false color that they put it in when they actually produce the image. And down below, you'll see all the different reasons why they have the different angstroms for these sensors, because they're looking at 4 different things like filaments, coronal holes, flare location, quiet regions, even magnetic regions on the sun. They have instruments that look for that. So there's a reason they do this. But these are what I call my witnesses. So there's a bunch of them. And in fact, you take a picture, here's a whole slew of them on SDO, and you can see how it sees the sun. And as you rotate that through, let me try that again. You'll see how the sun changes just a little bit nuanced as it goes through each one of those filters. And they do it for a reason. And the scientists can better define the sun's surface and the physics of the sun at the time by having different angstroms looking at it. So these are the 3 that I do. Stereo is actually 2 in the same system, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit. Initially, the SOHO was sent out in 1996, and it stays about 1 million miles away from the Earth, but it's always between the Earth and the sun. So it has its own inner golden circle there of orbit, and it's twice as far away as the moon is from us. So if the moon's like 287,000 miles away or some change, the SOHO is 1 million miles away. So it's not interacting with any of the space debris and stuff like that. So it keeps it as a clean field of view. The other systems are stereo ahead and stereo behind. These were designed, I think they launched in 2004-ish, maybe 2006. And they went to different directions. One went ahead of the Earth's orbit and one went behind the Earth's orbit to give a 3D look at the sun. So they have a better handle on what's going on the backside, and also CMEs. If you get a 3D rendering from 3 different locations, it gives you way more detail scientifically on intensity and direction. And of course, the SDO, that is the latest one that went up, and I think it was around 2010. It has a 4K resolution, even though it's not way out there. It does have a better field of view and better resolution for the images. Okay, I don't mean to put everybody back in elementary school or even high school, but this is the frequencies that we see. That little rainbow band is our eyes. And you say, well, why don't we just use our eyes to see the sun? Well, it's because satellites actually have a bunch of bands that they look at the sun, and it's something your eyes can't do. And we glean a whole lot of data out of it. You'll see the set of 4 arrows above UV. They're all starting with white and black, and then they turn to color halfway. That's because they're polarized after the image is produced. Then you have the magnetic imagers, of course, in the X-ray area. So that's what the satellites do for us, and they take a lot of data all the time. Now, size does matter when you're looking at the solar system, so I put this chart up for people to reference, because what I'm about to get into is going to be necessary for you to see, well, what's the size of the Earth and compared to what we're talking about today? Well, if every image has the sun in it, and you see this little dot here, you can now set up a ratio in your own mind of what the sizes are of these objects that we're about to show. So keep this in mind. It'll be important as we go through. Oh, here we go. Here's the sun and a 131 angstrom, and then something flying by it. I put the Earth scale next to it, just so you can see that if this object is tangent or close to the sun, it's at 93, 94 million miles away from the Earth. But if you put the Earth next to it, you realize it's something about the size of the Earth. So the first paradigm change most people have are size. They just can't get their minds wrapped around the size of the stuff they're seeing on this presentation. Just thought I'd introduce it to you so you can kind of get over it, because this is the biggest issue that most people have is, how big is this? Well, there's one. All right, now learning this, the sensors on a solar satellite was a journey for me. I spent years doing it, and luckily Embry-Riddle let me do it. The SOHO sensor has a C3 sensor on it, and it shows you stars. It shows you the coronal mass ejections, and it has this disk in front of it. For this particular sensor, they don't want to see the surface of the sun. They want to see the energy coming off the surface. So that's what this sensor does. But in this case, this day, they picked up a comet here. So let me get to that. So this comet's going in and diving in towards the sun. Does anybody know what that one is? Yep, it's another comet. This is one of those weird pictures they got where they got 2 comets going in towards the sun on this particular image. But this helps you orient yourself on the sensor itself and what it's doing. A secondary sensor on it is C2. It does the same thing, different frequency. And I came across this weird thing down here, and I'm like, that looks like a comet. It turns out it was asteroid BL86. It's only 600 foot across. It's doing 35,000 miles an hour back in 2015. And so I'm looking at it going, okay, so a comet and an asteroid kind of look the same. Got it. So I zoomed in on it. And then I opened up another image, and I had 3 things on there. I'm like, all right, this is going to be fun. So I found out Venus was the top one. And then the second was Comet Ison. This is its run into the sun. It doesn't exist anymore. This is its last run. But on one of the images of about 100 for that day, this image has 3 other things underneath it that wasn't on the first image, 5 minutes earlier, or the image past it 5 minutes later. But there's 3 weird looking spots on it, and it was in and out, so it's instant. This comet took many images to get all the way to the sun. These things only showed up on 1 image, so there must be some speed involved. I don't know if anybody is aware of the shuttle STS 75th flight, the tether incident. But for those who are not aware, this is an experiment where they threw a cable out of the back of the shuttle away from Earth. And the whole idea was to see how much energy would space generate on a cable. And so the scientists were all excited. They deployed it. The issue is the cable failed. And this is the point of failure here. Now, when we tried this before, the audio was so low you couldn't hear it, but you could hear the astronauts on this particular video talking to each other, talking about the catastrophic failure of the cable. And so right in the middle of their mission, everything was going great, cable breaks. And so these guys have nothing better to do.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, than to track a cable that's errantly leaving Earth's orbit. And the cool part was they left an IR camera on. And so after NASA figured out, yeah, that's where it broke, yeah, nothing we can do about it. We don't have the contingency to go out and get it. They let it go, but they tracked it. And so we're fortunate enough to have somebody who picked up that video of them tracking it here, and they put it through a system that enhances movement, so you can see where things are going by creating a trail. So watch this video as NASA stares at the 12-mile long cable leaving the shuttle. And as it turns out, this particular camera frequency is picking up a bunch of movement all around that cable. Some of it's going behind it, some of it's in front of it. And it's all different trajectories, so it's not the dust particles from the snap of the cable itself. It's something else. And somebody cleverly put it into a trail program. Now you can see the trails of these particular objects. And if I'm not mistaken, Newton's law is if something's in motion, it stays in motion until something acts upon it. So everything should be going in a straight line in space. Take a look and see if you can see anything curving from these particular particle objects. I'm not sure what we're seeing, but every line up there should be straight. And if not,
That's
why?
amazing. That's amazing. Oh, what would cause it to curve?
And, magnetic forces, electromagnetic forces, and or intelligence.
Interesting.
If it was a straight angle, it would have impacted something and gone, completely different direction like a billiard ball does. But these don't do that. They curve. And they curve individually and randomly.
They sure do.
Yeah, makes you go,
Mm-hmm.
So now that we've seen characteristics that are intelligent, like Abby Loeb did with Uma Uma, I think we can start to realize that it's possible that you can have enough evidence to identify something as intelligent. And qualify it as a technosignature, just based off of that. So we're going to do a little thought experiment here. We're going to ask Rick how that happens with extraterrestrials. How do we know we've got a technosignature in front of us? Well, Rick might know.
Who's responsible for this?
If something goes wrong, you find a scapegoat.
Rick.
It's what you do.
What'd you say?
You want to save 15% or more on car insurance? You switch to Geico. It's what you do.
Rick, don't walk away from me.
That's my favorite commercial. Sorry to put you guys through that. And I pray no one's on the call named Rick. But the intent here is to say at every organization, there's somebody that just is a weak link or doesn't get it. They're the new guy. Something goes wrong. It could be catastrophic like this. Or even in an intelligent species, if there's a Rick that's driving the spacecraft by one of these solar satellites, in this case, the SOHO, it might look like this. So in 1997, February 1st, I came across this image and I go, what in the world is that? So I blew that up and immediately recognized that's not an asteroid and that's not a comet. I I'm pretty sure it's Rick who left the landing lights on as he drove by the satellite. Probably should have had those landing lights off. So thank goodness he left them on. Otherwise, it would just be kind of a blob in the image itself, and we could have just poo-pooed it off as some type of computer compression issue. And I thought, well, and this is the first one I found. This was about the time I met Terry, and I needed to talk to somebody or get with a group of folks that didn't think I was crazy for what I was discovering. And so I went to MUFON to get more information on what's happening in this field, and pleasantly surprised, and also been very supportive all the way through. But I thought if I found the one of which I didn't talk to anybody for like 2 or 3 days, there should be more. And sure enough, in 1996, on December 10th, I found another one. I'm like, okay, well, that's 2 out of probably 100 terabytes of data. Could there be 3? Yeah, I started realizing there's more to this than just the one that I found, even though I suspected it for over a year. I just couldn't believe my eyes when I saw it. And I started realizing these are not asteroids. These are not comets. They're in the image, and the next image, they're clear out of it, showing high speeds for the object itself.
Absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, this is a fun video that NASA has on its website. You can pull it down anytime you want. And it shows what an astrophysicist would say, well, these are just filaments on the sun's surface. And that's natural. And it's true. There's a lot of filaments that do that. But you'll notice this one is not caused by the sun, but possibly something else. So an astrobiologist would walk in the room and go, you got something there that caused the filaments that's not related to the sun. Because astrophysicists aren't looking for biologicals, they're looking for physical properties and characteristics of the sun. That's where the 2 worlds differ. Mm-hmm. Astrobiologists and astrophysicists don't eat in the same lunchroom. They don't talk the same talk. They're different goals for both fields. And so I looked at this and said, oh my gosh, that's an obvious one. What's an astrophysicist think about this? And of course, they have a computer program that deciphers all the surface of the sun events, and it's called LAMSL. And I went back to that same date in 2012, on March 11th, and I pulled the 24 hours worth of data and put in my criteria. And you can see down here, I put in filament eruption, filament activation on the far left. And then when I clicked OK, I found that number 6 down here, it's highlighted in yellow on the right side, it says filament eruption. Well, that's true. And sure enough, it's in the exact same location as we saw back here in the video itself. So they captured the filament creation, and then the eruption. What they didn't capture is what created it, because that's outside their purview. It's outside their interest. But something is pulling plasma off the surface of the sun, not getting closer, not getting farther away. And it gets into a tight tornado before it decides to go ahead and leave. Mm-hmm. And that's not the only one. After I found that on YouTube, I went back into the NASA archives and I found 12 more like that, just myself. And that's a lot of study. It's a lot of going through stuff. So awesome. When it is. And so now that I showed you all that, when I showed you the pattern cognition and intelligence type thing with that first image I showed you, I want to go back to that, because now you know what to look for. You'll recognize that maybe you've seen things like this before, you just didn't know what you were seeing. This little guy was there for about a half a day before he left. But this is a nice picture because it was so low near the surface that you get the photosphere, you get the chromosphere, and it lit up the object so we can see it instead of just being a dark circle. Mm-hmm. So it makes it a little more understandable what you're searching for. Same thing with this. This is an actual full-on image that you pull off of NASA archive websites. This happens to be a 3-sensor conglomeration. Nice and blue. There's the sun. Nothing really crazy going on. A little bit of CME action down center low. But if you notice in the lower left, there's a little red clip here. Most people don't even notice it. So what I did is I went in there and I highlighted it and I brought it in. I zoomed it up and I go, is that an asteroid or is that a comet? I don't think it's either, because it's only in one image, and the very next image it's clear, it's gone. Same image, I don't know if you noticed it, and this is kind of hard to do unless you really turn the brightness up on your computer screens, but there's another one down here, and let me highlight that and bring it up and see if you see anything unusual. So some of these have multiple objects in them that are triggered by different sensors looking at different angstroms, different frequencies. That's the fascinating part. It's not just one frequency or just one sensor. It's all these witnesses, so to speak, sensors on these solar systems are picking up a lot. This one happens to be the SDO package of sensors, and I labeled all the angstroms across the top just to show you that all these sensors are picking up something traveling by the sun that's not originated from the sun. There's no CME attached to it. There's no activity from the surface. These show up in one iteration and they don't show up again in the next one. So they're traveling at pretty good speeds. My current count, actually now it's at like 13,000 plus of these type of objects I have in my files. So I got to name them. I call them solar-centric objects.
And
that's the best I can do.
Just the fact that you can see them means the size of them must be just off the charts.
It's crazy. And these are the small ones. Yeah, it's that bad. And I decided to go and look around in case it was a particular quirk or an anomaly with solar satellites, that they're creating this anomaly for me to see. So I took a chance and went into the Hubble archives and pulled up the Orion Nebula. And sure enough, over in this dark red patch, I expanded it out, and there's another one. So it's not just solar satellite systems that are picking these up. That's a deep space shot from Hubble. And it's seeing the same thing that I just showed you. So my assumption at this point, based on that, is all telescopes, even James Webb, will be able to see these if you know what you're looking at and you really dive into the images. Then I went backwards. I said, okay, what about weather satellites? So I started looking at weather satellites, and sure enough, Colorado State University has a weather satellite that they operate, and up in Alaska, one image was clean. This image came across. The next image, minutes later, was clean again. I've been flying for a long time. I've been in the military. I flew over Afghanistan and Iraq. That's not an aircraft that's ours. Just saying. It just nothing I've ever seen before. I can't even explain it. The nice part about it is we do get a little contrail with this one. So it is making some atmospheric disturbance, and I'm not sure why, given the fact that usually in an anti-gravity system, you're not disturbing the outside air so much, but maybe in the cold, it disturbed it enough where it compressed it, where you can see the trail. I don't know.
It's just amazing.
Yeah. So even weather satellites that are looking back towards Earth are catching this kind of stuff. I did one more time. I thought, well, maybe Mars has some fun stuff. So they put a seismic sensor on the surface of Mars and said, hey, everybody, look at this. I'm like, oh, it's a sensor, and it's got a little GIF. And wait a second, what's that thing flying in on the right side? You know me, I gotta zoom in. I took a look at it and zoomed in, and I go, oh, it's a flying matchstick. That makes no sense. So I was scratching my head going, is there any other photography that has something on Earth like that? And so I compared it to a dragonfly that we have. Horrible resolution, of course, but it's not too far off. You can see the wing system on the dragonfly. You can't see it really well on the Mars picture, but the mind tries to identify things even when there's nothing there, called pareidolia. We try to make sense of stuff around us when it doesn't make sense. So this may be my pathetic attempt to try to get my mind wrapped around this particular object. And then I came across this little video, and this may or may not be verified. I haven't found it in the archives because I don't know exactly the month and day this was shot. But it was kind of sensationalized on YouTube a few years back. And the reason why I say but is I got photos of stuff like this, not this clear, but of that shape, all through my 60,000 images I have on my laptop. So could this be real? I'm at about a 51% yes on these videos here, only because I've got so much data on still images that I don't discount this.
That's just amazing.
Yeah, I haven't poo-pooed this off and said, yeah, this is just CGI because of where it's located, how still it is, just like that circular black object we had earlier.
What would be the temperature of something? I mean, that's right up next to the sun.
Well, it's millions of degrees. The closer you get to the sun, the actual cooler it is. The sun's surface is really cool compared to the chromosphere and photosphere. They're multitudes hotter. As you get away from the sun, then it cools back down a bit. That's what's so crazy about the Parker probe, getting within 4 million miles of the sun on its journey. That's pretty good for a species like ourselves to be able to, create some type of satellite to get that close. What if you're 1,000 years ahead of us? Well, your spaceships are just using the plasma to fuel itself.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, so it's not too far away from science fiction, especially when these are actual NASA images.
Yeah, this isn't science fiction. This is science fact at the moment.
Yeah, we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. So we have those type of things. And so what I did is I put together a collage of pictures of my own doing, just for people to see that, there's enough still pictures in the NASA archives that make you scratch your head.
And what would the size of these be compared to, like, the United States of America?
Well, that one there is about 6 Earth sizes. Mm-hmm. That one there, these are all assumptions that it's right next to the sun, is about 2 Earth size. Whatever that thing's coming out of the sun is about 1.5 Earth. So, yeah, that's why I put that one slide up, for size does matter. Yeah. These things shouldn't be anywhere near the sun, given the fact they're organized.
My goodness.
Sometimes I have to increase the brightness and contrast to pull some of these images so you can see them, but these are not natural shapes.
Could the lines be created by exposures, long exposures?
It would be consistent with every image then.
Yeah.
And they're not. The next image is completely plain.
Right. It's amazing. It's actually exciting.
Yeah, it's probably a better word for it. This actually has 3 images to it. It came across the surface of the sun, never touched it. I don't know too many asteroids that are triangles.
I hope that the people that are watching are able to absorb this. It's just amazing.
And 2 entities that stayed there for a day. I don't know what those are. They weren't there for just one image. They were there for a day or two.
Oh my goodness.
So it's not a CME that comes up and goes back down.
What does NASA have to say about some of these things that you found?
I'm not chatting with NASA right now about it because they pretty much, I know the answer. It's going to be crickets.
It's like a weather balloon, right?
Exactly.
That is stunning. So exciting to think that there's so much that we don't know yet. We don't understand. But I'm looking forward to understanding it all.
Me too. I was hoping just to see, one or two examples, and I'd be happy. That was 6 years ago, and 60,000 images later, I can't stop. It's engaging.
Yeah, this would be addictive for me as well.
Yeah, it beats collecting stamps. Well, I don't know. There may be some avid stamp collectors out there, but if you want to change a hobby, this is the way to do it.
My goodness. Like we were talking earlier, we talk about motherships. These make motherships look like
these
like
are like
nothing.
planetary systems. Yeah. These are like that intense.
These are the sports coops.
This is my favorite one here, only because it had a CME erupt on it. But when we went to the next image, this guy was in it. Like, did this guy come out of it? Is he passing through? Is he splashing a little bit of plasma as he's going through the solar system?
Wow.
But it's fascinating because you can't tell me this is a rock.
Right.
It's just too organized. So that's my conclusion. Being a Southern Baptist deacon myself back in the day, I went immediately back into the Bible and like, God, you didn't tell me anything about this. And in fact, it's in the Bible too. Ezekiel talks about stuff that is UFO-ish for their day, just didn't have the right verbiage. But if you're tabernacling in the heavens, that means you live there. That's what tabernacle means,
right?
In Aramaic. So it's interesting.
It's a lot to wrap your head around, but it's so exciting.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. That gives you a chance to digest a little bit. I told you to be like a fire hose because it's a lot of information to try to absorb. And it's one of the few things you see on YouTube every now and then. Somebody look at a solar satellite image and go, "What's that?"
Yeah.
I did that as a career now. And each one of these you see here is a different day, a different time. They're just slightly different, but they're in the same category as solar centric. But that's it. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
We don't have anything online right now. People are probably still with their jaw dropped. It's hard to conceive that something is that size and moving around and about, and yet there's still so much that isn't revealed about it all. We don't have this on the news, which it should be on all major networks. It should be something that we're talking about, we're looking at, we're wondering, what is this? Who are these intelligent beings that are in crafts of that size? It's like you said, it's like 2 Earths, some of them, and much more. So there's so much that we don't know yet. And I had some questions. Do you think that our weather modifications prevent them coming here? Is that maybe why they're doing that? There's.
I think it's more simple than that. I think we've been fed enough information through our lives to get us ready for this announcement, to the point where I go back as a kid. I used to just watch Star Trek all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And their number one policy was to leave life alone. They would not disturb what they found. And so that was the prime directive for their exploration, is look at it, study it, and then, let it be. Try not to interact with it. Of course, James Kirk always had problems. But the premise is they have gotten to our neighborhood. How old are they? How much more advanced are they? Are the first questions. And if they're super advanced, we're no threat to them.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting is that they were a threat to us, we'd probably already be engaged, if not wiped out.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think like everything, every society, there's a Rick who's not doing everything right in the spaceship and not turning off the landing lights. And there's also good and evil in every place. I really believe there's a yin and yang to the universe, whether it's 1,000 years ahead of us.
Absolutely.
In development, or behind us. I suspect we'll be getting onto planets and maybe even star systems soon.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll have to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Leave it alone, study it, and move on. So yeah, it's a good question on why they don't reveal themselves, and I think it's just because it's on purpose.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they are advanced, obviously, to have the technology that they have. And coming to a little planet like Earth, I mean, it could be more of an embarrassment to them than, It's like you started it with, you think they lock their doors when they go by. I would not blame them.
I'm pretty sure that we're only a 1 out of 5 star rating on TripAdvisor for the universe.
Yeah,
So
or less. Yeah.
I don't suspect anybody stopping by, really, because we don't have the accommodations for them.
Yeah, we're the 1-star hotel.
Exactly.
But
The other thing is again, I can produce categories. I've seen so many of these
yeah.
that not only do I call things like this, solar centric, but I am finding shapes that are common now, where I can tell a Ford and a Chevy in spacecraft. They're that common, where they have characteristics amongst themselves that may be different day to day, but there's enough characteristic similarity that makes me go, I can put it in this category. So it's kind of a qualitative analysis rather than a quantitative. Of course, quantitative comes secondary. And I've done that type of research even with my master's. The last one I did, I had a specific object that was being picked up by a specific sensor on the Stereo A solar satellite, and it picked it up in such an odd manner that I could tell this object was intelligent, because it curved. Every time it got near the satellite, it left a trail of curvature, and the satellite's still functional, so I know these things aren't hitting the satellite, but I think they're also detecting it's out there. So they maneuver not to interact with the satellite, but you can see the images, and it's usually just one image, but there'll be a specific object that leaves a trail of like 6 lights behind it. And I did a whole thesis paper on it. And it was kind of funny, because there's like 8 of us in my master's class, and my thesis on this was, do these things come by the satellite with intelligent timing? And so I had 248 images out of a 387-day period. I set up my data fields and did some crunching using some Fourier and Hilbert transforms, my histograms, everything. I put it all together, and my professor sat next to me one day. He goes, "Let me see your data," because we weren't done yet. I said, I know I'm supposed to brief today on my data set, but the numbers I'm getting on my tests are a little extreme, because usually when you run a test in statistics, if it's 0.05 or smaller, it's significant. It's a significant find. It may change your hypothesis, or the null hypothesis, as they call it, or it may validate it. And I gave him my thumb drive after I showed him my data set and said, I'm at like 10 or 1, what was the number I came out? 7.7 times 10 to the negative 23 instead of negative 2. 2 is significant. 23 is incredible. Yeah. It's almost proof.
Yeah.
And he just smiled. He put my thumb drive in his laptop, and he said, let me run a different test on it. And I'm like, man, I'm halfway through this master's. I hope I don't crash on this one. And he put it in his computer and got the exact same number. And
very nice.
Everybody in the classroom stopped talking because I've been ridiculed the whole time. And like, I'm the tinfoil hat guy, right? I'm looking at UFOs. And the kid next to me, after everybody just stopped talking, it was like 5 seconds, felt like an eternity. He looked at me and goes, does that mean they're here?
Oh, yeah.
And I said, I don't know. But it's statistically significant.
It really is. You know, if anybody does have any questions, please ask them. Type them in there, and our producer will get them to us. But we did have one. Someone wanted to know, if they're that close to the sun, are they actually getting something from the sun? Some type of plasma energy, or what are they getting? Like, you know, and this is me throwing this in. I know that people say that when they come to the Earth, they're looking for certain minerals, you know,
right.
Gold, right. And different things. So is that what's happening at the sun's level, what they're doing there?
I'm going to have to throw a hypothesis out there. So let me caveat everything with that.
Okay.
Since we don't know the level of intelligence of the different types of species that are flying through our solar system, it could be anything. Mm-hmm. I think some stop off at the sun to refuel. Plasma is plasma. It's an energy. Mm-hmm. We live in a plasma universe.
Right.
That's a fact. And I think I look at it also from my pilot perspective. If I had a starcraft and I'm going to the next star, I use it for navigation. I think that's why we're getting visited over and over and over again, is because these guys are either coming through this area, navigating using our sun, or when they get here, depending on their level of intelligence and what their needs are, they may need some fuel from the sun. It's nothing different than we do with gas stations. Mm-hmm. So I don't know for sure, but that's my hypothesis. It's navigation and resources.
Well, and that's what shows up. I mean, you know, they're obviously taking something in. They're not shooting something out. They're definitely taking something in. So, I mean, that I go with that 100% as well. And
only if we could charge them per gallon, we would be okay.
Yeah. You know, and we seem so insignificant in the big picture when you see these. It changes your whole perspective. The dynamic is unbelievable. You know, they're not electric. Yeah, they're not electric.
Yeah, that's right. Well, maybe they are, since we're dealing with dielectric and magnetism throughout the universe. They're one and the same in the sense of energy. If people would just read Tesla's work, they would get it. He was so right on with how the universe. Steinmetz, Heaviside, all these guys were so right on, and that was 100 years ago.
Right.
They had us ready for free energy.
Right.
Already done, already figured out.
I know. Mm-hmm.
And here we sit 100 years later, shaking our heads, going, "What happened?"
That's such an interesting concept. All of that, you know, it's hard to wrap your mind around all that. Just greed, just common greed, you know, and why? You know, it's not like there's luggage racks on their coffins and they're taking anything with them. You know, I don't know.
I don't know either. It's a sad story for our species on how we quash that, and how our own government has completely denied any such existence of aliens until just recently. When the rest of the world is going, yeah, we're grappling with it. We know they exist. We just don't know what to do about it. Our government says they don't exist.
And I would bet you, David, that is truly the reason. I mean, in the big picture, why they don't interact with us. Because I do think, and I had talked with Kathy Martin about this 10, 12 years ago, humans cannot be trusted. We say one thing and we do another. Always. And we say we're going to do this, and then we obviously do that. And if they've been here, which I know they have been for generations, eons, I wouldn't want to interact with humans if I was from somewhere else. I would think, no, thank you. That is not the type of people or the type of being that we want to share information with or be involved with. And
yeah, the problem is they could be blamed for giving us too much technology to kill ourselves.
Well, exactly,
And I'm sure that's not their directive. Is, hey, let's give them this widget that can wipe them off the planet in one press of the button. Or it could free everybody and they could be star travelers. Well, you're right. You can't trust humans, and they, I'm sure, don't trust humans, and they know how archaic and barbaric we can be as a species. Now, there's some that have good golden hearts. There's people that are just angelic, but there's also satanic folks.
Right.
in the mix.
Yeah, we're not alone here. From many other dimensions, we're not alone.
Exactly. So you've got the evil forces and the good forces, and everybody's in that cosmic struggle. Earth happens to just be waking up to it all.
I know.
We're just now realizing there's so much more than us, and it's okay to say that.
Yeah, it is. And I'm so grateful that people are waking up, but it's so... I don't know. It's just so heartbreaking that it's taken this long, even for myself. It took many, many years for me to get out of the bubble and face the music, so to speak, and be able to grasp what's really, truly happening here. And with these technosignatures, and we see all that is out there, to me, it's just so exciting to imagine what is in front of us,
And I used to question some of the cases that would come in. We'd get in MUFON old cases. I mean, they'd be 10, 20, 30, 40 years old. I'm like, what on earth are you guys doing reporting this now?
Yeah.
And I started realizing it's because it was suppressed in their own minds, and it was the wrong time. They didn't want to be ridiculed.
Right.
Or their families ridiculed them and they just buried it.
Well, yeah, that's actually what happened with me with my 1979 experience working for Honeywell Aerospace back in the 70s. My mom told me, well, she was in management at Honeywell, and she said, whatever you do, don't talk about this. People are going to think you're cracked. And I thought, okay, and I didn't. 29 years later, it took me to actually discuss it all, because I wasn't ready. I didn't even want to think about it. It was so frightening what happened to me. I couldn't wrap my mind around it.
Exactly. The same thing in the pilot world. Not too many pilots talk about it because it's still a stigma, and you could be evaluated afterwards when you get on the ground for even talking about it.
Yep.
I had that clip I showed you where the airline guys were talking to the tower. If you notice, the last thing the reporter said is that the folks that they reported to, the air traffic control, the FAA, told the pilots, reported to the FBI. What? The FBI has nothing to do with our airspace.
Yeah. Why?
What was that sort of deflection? So the FAA knows full well there's stuff in our skies.
Oh, sure.
They don't want to deal with it. There's not even a form as a pilot for me to report a UFO in the FAA system. There isn't. Yeah,
you're not. I don't know how do I want to say this. You're chastised if you tell the truth. If you cover it up, it's like it's a blessing. not to tell
yeah.
it. You know,
There's so many people that get debriefed after they see a sighting, especially in the military. I guarantee you, some of the stories we get on YouTube or on documentaries now on TV, they're old, and most of those guys have multiple stories they can tell, and there's probably 100 to 1 that are out there. We only get that one because the other 99 got debriefed. You will not talk about this. You will be sworn to secrecy. That's just the military way. Yeah,
that's the military game they play. They don't want the truth out there. And unfortunately, it is what it is, you know. And to this day, it hasn't changed much. We're starting to get a little leverage, you know, on telling the truth. There's been a lot of deathbed confessions from people that didn't want to continue lying once they left the planet. I think that's amazing. And and thank God that some of these people are talking. Edgar Mitchell, I mean, so many people. And, you know.
Well, even Ben Rich on his deathbed or near the end of his life, you know, said we have the technology to take ET home. Right. And he was in charge of Skunk Works. That's a bold statement.
It is.
And, unfortunately, we can't question him anymore about it. But it was nice he threw that little nugget out there.
Yeah.
Letting us know life is so much more than this Earth, that it is going to be the next paradigm shift for the people on the planet, because not many people wrap their heads around it yet.
And I think that the ones that I've seen, the ships that I've seen, one was 42 feet, because I went back and measured what was hovered over the railroad track, and about 6 feet high. And that was so tiny compared to the Technosignatures. And I'm thinking that has to be because it's a different species. It's not the same, you know, even coming from the same place as these larger ones do. And yeah, more like a shuttlecraft or something. But, you know,
exactly.
Yeah, because there was a tall white and 2 grays that were on that particular ship. But it was interesting. These other ships are probably colonizations or something. They've got to be a whole fleet of beings, you know, and obviously bigger perhaps than what would even fit here on our planet. You know, you know, because you look at Petra, you know, and you look at some of these places on the Earth that have these massive, you know, they're so big and so tall, and I think, why would anybody in their right mind have made it that way? You know, a doorway that's, you know, the size of, you know, a huge building, a 6 or 7 story building, just for the doorway.
Exactly.
So
well, the massiveness of these colonies, as you put it, are also ecosystems within themselves. Just like Earth, we live and we die on this thing we call Earth, which isn't it a spaceship as well?
Yeah.
What's the difference? We're spinning through space. We just don't have the controls to come out of our solar system and whip over to somebody else's solar system. They do.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing. Boy, I'll tell you, I could just, you know, go on talking for for hours and hours, although we do have a time limit today, but and we're pretty much there, but thank you so much. I want to let our listeners know where you are, so if they do have questions, they can contact you, reach out to you, if you'll share that information with us.
I can. I'll do it through email. You have to write it down because I normally don't give that out, but for you I will.
Okay.
Because I like you. It's Major Toon, MAJTOON, the number 1 at Gmail, MageToon1 at gmail.com. I'd be more than happy to field any other questions or send any more data.
Okay.
The website itself is about 90% done. It's not 100%. There's a research section in it that I got to fill in. But if you want to look at the solarsuspicions.com, you can also get some more data on this from that site. And in fact, I gave you links to all the places I go to find these technosignatures. So it may be helpful there too.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to follow in your footsteps or, hook up with you to talk about what they've found, they can go to these. I just think it's awesome. I really do. And I look forward to having you back on. Yeah, when you get some new findings.
It's been my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much, David. And it's just wonderful hanging out with you for a little bit too. I must say.
It's always fun.
You're one of my favorite people.
Likewise. Enjoy.
Okay, have a great evening. Take care. And thank you all for coming here today and spending this time with us. I know this was really powerful information and a lot to wrap your mind around, but it's also true. You were able to see these different technosignatures that David had found, and it's mind-blowing. It really is. So anyway, join us again next month. And we'll have Marketa Klimova on, and we'll be talking about so many different things involving MUFON and the symposiums. And that'll be November 26th at 2 p.m. Central Time, 3 p.m. Eastern. She's our symposium organizer, and we'll be live streaming right here from Paris, Tennessee. So thank you so much. Also, you can log on to terryling.com for so many of the things that I've shared. I originally started sharing all of that just for my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. And I'm also sharing it with the world, different things that have happened to me that I've experienced. I hope you'll take a look. And I'm no longer on Twitter. I just do want to share that. I'm not on Twitter. I just don't have the time. But anyway, I did a little book on Amazon that I wrote about an alien healing that I had in 2012 with a benevolent extraterrestrial. It's just called Terry Ling Keel, Alien Healing. I made it really inexpensive for you, so please go there and read that account of what actually happened to me in 2012. And again, never stop looking up. And thank you so much for coming. Have a great afternoon.